Hey, this is James Pelton, and a common question that I get is, hey, where did you get your money to start investing? Okay, so I'm going to tell a little bit about my story. Some people don't know this. Before I got into YouTube and crypto and this world, I actually ran a software business that I ended up selling in 2020 for 7 figures. So what I wanted to call this video, the title of this video is 5 lessons that I learned from turning $0 into $6 million. Okay, that's the title. But I want to take you all the way back to my childhood, just talk a little bit about what I've learned in my short 35 years of life. So as a kid, I grew up in a kind of middle-class family. We had 6 kids. So I think my dad made a decent amount of money, but since we had so many kids, it kind of felt like we were poor. And the first thing I really remember thinking about money was we were at Chuck E. Cheese. It's the arcade place, if you aren't familiar. And I remember we would ration out the tokens. So we had 6 kids. My dad would buy 60 tokens and give us 10 apiece. And then we would ration those. Like we would say, okay, I can play 10 games. This is back when games were a token a piece instead of now they're like 4 tokens a piece. Another story for another day. But I would be looking around, okay, which 10 games do I want to play during this? And I remember thinking, this is probably kindergarten or first grade. I remember thinking, if I could have unlimited Chuck E. Cheese tokens, that's what would make me happy in life. That's the secret to happiness, is unlimited Chuck E. Cheese tokens. So I remember even from a really young age, hey, I want to get rich and make a lot of money. At the time, it was so I could get a lot of Chuck E. Cheese tokens. Over time, it developed into other wants and desires. But I remember from a very young age, that was a really driving force for me. And I remember growing up, I grew up in a, typical evangelical church here in the States. Growing up, I remember a lot of people telling me, hey, money doesn't make you happy. I remember chapel. I went to a Christian school for high school. I homeschooled, went to high school to Christian school. And I remember the same thing. Chapel speakers would come in and they would say, money doesn't make you happy. But one thing I noticed about all these people who kept telling me is they weren't very rich. And so what I thought as a high schooler, junior higher, is I thought, you're just saying that because you didn't make enough money. You're using it as a coping mechanism. You couldn't make money, so now you're coping. Oh, money doesn't actually make you happy. So I believed that. I thought, hey, I'm going to go make a lot of money and I'm going to prove these people wrong. So as a young kid, I was a huge nerd. Okay, I loved computers more than about anything. As a second grader, I remember my parents taking me on a camping trip and I brought along Perl in a Nutshell and PHP for Dummies. And my parents were like, hey, why are you bringing these types of books to a camping trip? But that's the type of kid that I was. I ended up going to school for computer engineering and I absolutely hated school. It drove me just crazy that I did all the work, they told me what to do, and then I had to pay them. I thought, this is so stupid. I like jobs way better. So I got a call from a company my senior year of college. So I've actually already had put in 3 full years. It was the beginning of my senior year. I was married and already had a daughter, and they called me and said, hey, how much would we have to pay you for you to drop out of school and come work for us? And I was rejoicing because I hated school. Even though I was only a year from being done, I thought, there's no way that I want to keep doing this. I think this was 2009. I dropped out of school, went to work for this company, was making really good money out of college, literally out of college. And a lot of people told me during that time in my life that, hey, you're going to regret not getting your degree. What's important in life is finish school, get your degree. That's what I was told. Even after I got this good job, and even after I started my own business, I still had people telling me, you're going to regret not getting that degree. And who knows, I might be. I've been proven wrong on a lot of things. But we're 13 years later, I don't regret that decision at all. And that's actually the first lesson that I want to get across to people is you do not need formal education to make money. It's not necessary. I understand there's some fields, like obviously you can't go be a doctor without formal education, and that's good, okay? I don't think you should get your medical degree from YouTube. But don't think that your goals, that it's education that's holding you back from most of those, at least formal education. We have the internet. We have access to the complete library of the knowledge of the history of the world at our fingertips. Okay, and we spend most of our time playing Candy Crush or whatever it is that people play these days. So that's lesson number 1, is you don't need formal education to make money. So I ended up working for several different computer companies, and you play the game, or this company offers you money, so then you go over there, then this other company offers you more money. I didn't have a lot of loyalty or anything like that. It was kind of just, I wanted to take care of my family and wanted to be rich. And I did. I wanted to buy the things that you buy in America. And this was interesting because at the same time, I was also a part-time pastor. So I was teaching the college group at our church. So I kind of had a lot of Christians this happens to, where you can have your two lives, right? Like I'm living one life saying money doesn't matter, Jesus is everything. And then on the other hand, in my heart, I want to be rich and I'm doing everything I can to make as much money as I can as a young man. Sometimes we cover it up by I'm providing for my family. But you don't need to provide your family with a Tesla, right? That's not necessary. So through this time as a college pastor, we actually ran into a problem with our students where we needed to let people know where we were going to eat after like night church. And we were having a really hard time. How do you get this message out to everyone? And so I had this idea as a computer engineer that I would build some software that sends out mass text messages. And so I built this for my church. And then I had probably 80 other churches reach out to me saying, hey, we need this for our church as well. And eventually I decided, hey, this should be a business. So I started my business called Mobile Text Alerts, and it was doing very well. And that leads me to my second lesson that I've learned in my journey from $0 to $6 million was solving problems is what creates value. That's how you make money, is you solve other people's problems. And sometimes the best problems that you can solve are ones that you yourself have. In marketing, we talk about you have your target customer, your avatar that you build of customers. If you are the target customer, you can answer all the questions about the software perfectly. You know exactly how people want to use it. You know exactly what problems they have, what issues they're going to run into. I found that very true in my business. For about the next 7 or 8 years, I grew that business. We ended up with 12 employees and over 20,000 customers. We got out of just churches, and Steak and Shake got in touch, Chick-fil-A, Yamaha. We had all these big companies reaching out to us for text alerts. One thing I say is that's my contribution to the world, is all the spam text messages you get. I help make that possible, so you're welcome. I do what I can. But over this time, money was pouring in. This was my dream. I bought my dream car, bought my Tesla Model S, I built my dream house. But what I found was that having more money didn't feel any better. I felt empty a little bit. There was something lacking in my heart, and I thought, oh, building my dream house is what's gonna fulfill what's going on in my heart. I'd kind of aimed my whole life at building my dream house. That was the goal of my life. And then I hit it when I was 30 years old, and it was kind of a crisis point. It did feel really good. I remember sitting in my living room when we first built our house, and I remember looking around and saying, wow, I've done it. It felt good. There was a sense of satisfaction there, and it lasted all of about 2 weeks. Then all of a sudden you start thinking, oh wow, now I need more. What else is there? This is gone now. It's been 2 weeks. 2 weeks in this new house. I need something else. So then you start looking into, oh, could I buy a boat? Could I buy a vacation home? What else could I buy to maybe something else is the key to being filled? It's unfortunate as a college pastor that I didn't realize Ecclesiastes talks about this. Solomon, I don't know if you guys don't know this story from your Sunday school days, but Solomon was a king of Israel, and God asked him, hey, you can have any one wish that you want. And a lot of people would ask for wealth or whatever. He says he wants wisdom. And God's like, that's a really good request. Gives him wisdom, and he writes Ecclesiastes. And one of the things he writes is that pursuing riches is like chasing the wind. And I definitely found that true in my heart. It's like you're after it, but then as soon as you get it, there's not really anything there. So that's lesson 3 that I've learned in this journey from 0 up to 6 million is money does not make you happy. No amount of money will make you happy. That's not really what your heart is after, no matter how much you think it is. That is not what your heart is after. And I know some of you, especially if you're young, some of the older people are going to say, amen, that's definitely true. Some of the younger, especially young men, really want to be rich. And some of you might say, hey, you're full of it. That's not true. But I'm telling you, it's a lesson I've learned. Money does not make you happy. And again, I wish I could have just learned that as a pastor, just reading the Bible. But a lot of times Christians have a habit of saying one thing and living another way. And that's where I was at. Contentment is a choice. So I can tell you with confidence, if you're not content with what you have now, you won't be content if you make more. And again, I'm not against trying to make more money. Obviously, that's what my channel is kind of based around. But, well, we'll talk more about this. I can tell you money won't make you more happy or content than you are now. In fact, if anything, it will make you more stressed having more money. Have you ever heard the saying, more money, more problems? Okay, that's not a just made up saying. I was made up by people who have more money, and they realize, wow, My life is way more complex now that I have money than before. So I started to learn some of these lessons, and my business was stressing me out to the point that in 2020 I had an offer for my business, a 7-figure offer to buy my business. And I finally said, you know what? I would like to get that stress out of my life. I'll go ahead and take that offer. So now this is 2020, and now I have a big chunk of money, but really nothing to do. Okay, and we dream of retirement. I don't know if young men, we dream of retirement and we think, wow, I'm gonna watch so many movies, I'm gonna play so many video games, I'm gonna travel the world. I retired at age 32. I remember first day I watched some Netflix and I was like, wow, this is kind of nice. Up until about maybe noon. I woke up at my normal time, 7 or 6 or whatever. About noon, I was bored. I was like, oh my goodness, what have I done? I have nothing to do. What is my life going to be about now? So I started investing. I got to find something to do. I got into the stock market. I got into real estate. I got into venture capital. I got into angel investing. Really just trying out all the different asset classes and just seeing what do I like, what do I not like. But eventually I found my way into crypto. And what I loved about crypto was the absolutely crazy returns. I started in strong block, believe it or not, in the bull market, and I was making just boatloads of money, $600-700 a day just off my strong nodes. And I loved the returns. I loved how easy it was to get in, and I loved that it was open to everyone. So again, I came from the venture capital world or the real estate world where a lot of the best deals are reserved for accredited investors, which means you have a net worth of over $1 million, or qualified purchasers, which means you have a net worth of over $5 million in investable assets. So I would have in venture capital, I would have these 20% APR, highly collateralized loans, like pretty safe 20% returns. I'm like, these are amazing, but they're only open to people that are rich already. It drove me crazy. I hated it. I wanted to get my friends and family into this stuff, but they couldn't. So when I found crypto and I saw, hey, anyone can get into crypto, it's amazing. And once I got into crypto, it's been hard for me to look back into the other asset classes because it's just such a crazy, interesting, fun space with potentially high returns. We've seen the bear market has kind of dampened down my enthusiasm a little bit, but still a great place. But I had to figure out, okay, what am I going to do with my money? I'd found that just buying things didn't make you happier. Again, the last purchase I made where I was like, was I bought a hot tub, which this is like the epitome of the American dream, right? You build your own house, you buy a hot tub. But the hot tub had maintenance, it would break down, we would rarely use it once you get used to it. And I realized, man, I don't want to just keep buying more things. I feel the more I buy, the less freedom I have. I'm stuck to this stuff. So what do you do with all this money that you're making? And that's when I found the power of giving. And this was another lesson that I wish I could have just read the Bible and learned this if I just believed the Bible, but I was stubborn. I had to experience it for myself. But I had always tried to be generous growing up, so I always had given to charities and things like that. But this was the first time in my life where God had moved me to give radically. What a lot of Christians do, what I used to do, was you'd budget all your expenses, you'd take your income, you kind of budget everything, make sure it all worked out, and then, okay, there's a little bit left over, I'll give my 10 tithing, is what we call it in Christianity. But when you look at the Bible, is that how it says to give? Jesus was in the temple watching people give money in the temple. And he noticed all these wealthy people coming in, and they would put in their money into the temple. But then there was a widow who came in and she gave just 2 pennies was all that she put in there. And a lot of people would look at that and say, okay, wow, she didn't really help. She didn't help very much. She just gave 2 pennies. But Jesus says that widow gave more than all the others. They all gave out of their excess, but she gave everything she had to live on. So instead of relying on her money, she said, you know what? I'll give my money to the Lord and let him take care of me. And I've really tried to live by that since the Lord taught me that just a couple years ago. In fact, I keep this, it's 2 actual mites from that time. That's what they called the coins, the widow's mites. But I try to keep these on my desk just to remind me, hey, don't just give when it's convenient. Don't just give, when it makes fiscal sense. But we are to give radically. And we're to rely on the Lord to take care of us. So I started down this journey where if somebody needed something, I wouldn't first check my finances to see, hey, can I afford that? I would just, hey, here you go. If somebody needed a place to stay, I wouldn't do some, okay, is this wise to let them stay with us? I would just say, hey, you need a place to stay, come stay with us. You need something, I'm going to give it to you. And the Lord really blessed this. Like, money just kept coming in, and then I would just find places to use it. We were able to build a well for an orphanage in Pakistan. We were able to help out an orphanage in Cameroon. James 1:27 says, pure and undefiled religion is this, to give to widows and orphans in their distress. And so I've always had my eyes open for widows and orphans. Who can I help? Who can I help? And what I found through this is that the words of Jesus are true. Acts 20 verse 35, Jesus says it makes you happier to give than to receive. And again, that might sound cliche, and for a lot of people, they acknowledge, yeah, that's true. It makes you happier to give than to receive. But a lot of people don't believe that's true in their heart. If they had the choice between, hey, could you receive $1 million or give $1 million? 9 out of 10 people would say, I'd rather receive the $1 million so that I can go use it however I want. But that's my lesson number 4 in my journey from $0 to $6 million is it will make you happier to give to other people than to make money for yourself. God's always blessed that for me. He's always taking care of me month after month. You might look at my monthly numbers and think, wow, he probably never stressed out about finances. But actually, I am a lot. Just different expenses and different people I'm trying to take care of in different ways. And it's something that I'm working and praying through. I don't trust God completely the way that I should. Sometimes that anxiety pops up of, hey, am I going to make it this month? Look at these numbers. They're way down. The crypto market's way down. The stock market's way down. Am I going to make it? But the Lord has never let me down yet, and I'm confident that he'll be faithful going forward. There's been temptation through the bear market to cut back on giving and, hey, make sure I'm okay. Make sure I have a stockpile waiting for me. But I've kind of just stayed at it. And trusted the Lord to provide. And again, he's been faithful every time. The Lord will be faithful with as much as you trust him with, is what I've found. There's a part of me that wishes I could just get another $10 million or something like that, and it would just completely take away all financial stress for the rest of my life. But I know that's not the reality of how it would work. But I know that God's teaching me to rely on him. And that's what I want to do with my channel. I want to help people who don't like their job get out of their job and replace it with passive income. I want people to have more financial freedom so that they have money that they can go help people with. But what I really want, it's not really a secret. You might call it a secret mission, but what I really want is I want to help young men in particular. Young men in particular have these huge desires to get rich. And I want to help young men work through that. I want that to help them deal with love of money and get their focus on what's actually important. Jesus has a parable. This is from Luke chapter 12 if you want to go read it. But it's about a wealthy man who makes a lot of money. He fills up a barn. That was wealth in those days. Obviously, now it's not that. But we'll say he bought a bunch of cars. Then he's like, well, what do I do with my money now? And he said, I'll build bigger barns. So he did that. And then he says in Luke 12, he says, soul, I've laid up goods for many years. Now I'll take my ease and rest. And God tells him, you fool, don't you know that today your soul is required of you? And I don't want anyone in my audience to end up that way. If you spend all this time and effort and energy building this huge, massive amount of wealth, and then you die, and it was all for nothing, I would feel like that would be a waste. That'd be a waste of you watching my channel, and it'd be a waste of what you're doing with your life. And so yeah, insert here the comments. If we watch your channel, we don't have to worry about getting rich. Yeah, ha, 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 ha. So funny. But that is really what I want for my viewers. So I'm going to call that my last lesson. We talk about my 5th and final lesson. We talk about long-term investing, right? We try to teach our kids are very short-minded, like they want instant gratification. And as we get older, we mature where we think, don't just look 10 seconds ahead, start looking a year ahead, start looking 10 years ahead. But what really wise investing is, think about how what you're doing today is going to affect 10,000 years. You're going to be dead a lot longer than you're going to be alive. So I just want people to be thinking about, how is what you're doing now going to affect eternity? So that's my 5th and final lesson. If you want to invest, don't only invest for the short term, don't only invest for the 10-year, don't only invest for the 20-year, invest for the 10,000 year. That's my 5th and final lesson. So to recap, number 1, you don't need formal education to make money. Number 2, solving other people's problems is what generates money. Number 3, money by itself will never make you happy. Number 4, it will make you happier to give your money to other people than to make the money. And the fifth and final lesson, if you really want to invest for eternity, invest for 10,000 years, that's the wisest move that you can make. So I hope this is helpful for you. Again, I know this isn't going to resonate with everyone, but if you appreciate this, please hit like and comment down below if you disagree. Maybe you're an atheist and you think I'm full of it. Let me know an atheist perspective on what I said here today. I'd love to hear, if you're a Muslim, you're not coming at it from Jesus is God, you're coming at it from a different religion. Let me know kind of your thoughts on this and how you think through this, how you treat this. I love to just get dialogue and kind of see how other people think through this. But I appreciate you guys. I'm always going to do my best to do what I think is helpful for you. I try to not do things that benefit me and don't benefit you, and I'm not perfect. I'm still learning and working through things and making mistakes and trying to pick myself back up after those. But yeah, I appreciate you guys very much and hope everybody has a great rest of the day. Thank you.